losing the statewide elections. We know why that is. You know what? Let's just go ahead and jump right to Arizona because this is the big one.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right to Arizona, guys, because this is the big one. Now, you're going to have a hard time convincing Lake and Masters that they did so poorly. Pull up in Maricopa County. You're going to have a tough time convincing Blake and Masters that they did so poorly in Maricopa County. Trump won Maricopa County in 2016. Trump would have won Maricopa County in 2020 if 250,000 votes for Biden didn't come in the middle of the night. Maricopa County is where we saw all the shenanigans all day long. Ali, what do you think happens for these Republicans that are way behind right now in the most corrupt voting county in America?
The most corrupt voting county. Look, this was the fault of a tactic called pacing and leading. So what Karen Fann did in the state senate there was she acted like she was an ally of ours. She held all these investigations, but she didn't really sink her teeth into this. The state legislature, I'm black, so I guess the lighting's not that good, is it? Maybe I should go sit back. Maybe I should go sit back in my seat. It's hard for the crew to light me. But what's happening here is a failure of leadership. We had the governorship. We have the governorship. Well, maybe we had the governorship. We had the state legislature. They could have defunded all of Maricopa County. They could have seized the machines. They could have said, we're administering your elections. That's not what they did. What they did instead is they said, well, you can continue to administer your elections. Now, I want to caution everyone. Arizona looks bad, but it is not this bad. It is not this bad. We could still lose it, but it's not this bad. And
but here's what's interesting. When you go back and you look at 2016 and 2020, Republicans lead Maricopa County all day, all night.
Right.
All day, all night. Trump won it in 2016. He would have won it in 2020, but the magic votes for Biden.
A million mystery voters.
How are they going to... This is what's going to be amazing. Lake is not going to buy it. Masters is not going to buy it. Specifically Maricopa County, where all the shenanigans went down. What is the response to this?
Well, the response needs to be legal. There need to be injunctions. There needs to be a review. There needs to be a chain of custody enforcement on this. But if the state legislature is not willing to get involved, then we've lost. I mean, it's that simple. Protest is not going to cure this. Frankly, the injunctions aren't going to work. All that can do is kind of preserve the chain of custody if there was anything wrong that happened. The fact that a judge would not extend open voting locations that could not tabulate ballots another 3 hours, which maybe meant a couple hundred additional voters, shows the mere malice of the Democrat Party and the inaction by our judiciary. I mean, unfortunately, I just got a text message from a major publisher of conservative magazines, and they wrote me and they said, your piece now 4 weeks ago is more true than any other right-wing piece. Now, this was right before the polling bent our way, and I said, there is no red wave. And I wrote this in the American Spectator. And then a day after that, we started getting polling, and I said, okay, well, then I guess I was wrong. This is tightening in a way that's not good. And people will say, well, then how are we winning this place but not this place? It looks like incumbency is winning. It looks like money is winning. And that's awfully bad, folks, because that means that the Democrats have levies. They have levies.
And the propaganda, don't forget about that.
And it's all the propaganda. So I promise this. I just promise you all this. Arizona will not be this bad. But it is possible that we lose all 4 seats that we're contending for there. It is very possible if this comes down to just the technicals and the Democrats spend just as much money as us, but then they have media and then they're going to fake this turnout, or they have machines that don't work, then they will have pulled off a coup. And, you know, at some point during the show, I've got a prediction for tomorrow that's pretty dire. But I'll save that for another half hour. Everybody's got to keep watching InfoWars, because as these races come in, they're pointing that America's fed up with Democrats, but the Democrats can turn out low information voters, and they have a subsidy, $1 trillion subsidy with the media, the college institutions, the government, the bureaucrats who, run out of paper.
Well, and two, what we've learned is, and they just learned this in Brazil, by the way, there were thousands of protesters in New York City yesterday and today saying Bolsonaro won. That's neither here nor there, just people waking up to rigged elections. But it's the same phenomenon where what you're going to see, just like we told you here at InfoWars, Republicans are going to do well in the House. They're probably going to get maybe even a 10-seat advantage in the House, which would be key. But then you're going to say, why didn't that translate to election victories in the Senate and the governor's races? Because, folks, they can overwhelm an entire state's votes with just one city, whether that's Arizona or Philadelphia, which is going to be the case, and Atlanta. That's what it's going to be. Phoenix, Atlanta, and Philadelphia are going to overwhelm these seats, and it's not going to add up to you, but that's because they stuffed those ballots, and then they can overwhelm the entire state's elections. Now, here's what's curious. We'll continue to monitor this race in Arizona. I'm going to make a bold prediction that if Masters and Lake do not win, they will not concede tonight. But we'll figure that out.
Nor should they.
And here's what's interesting, guys. Pull up Nevada for me, because now the Nevada seat is more key than ever before. And I have not seen any results in from Nevada yet, but I haven't looked in a minute. So, okay, still nothing in Nevada. That's a little odd to me, but we'll continue to monitor that. Folks, here's where we're at. If Fetterman pulls off Pennsylvania, you're going to have a runoff in Georgia. We'll see what happens in Arizona. We'll see what happens in Nevada. But if Fetterman wins Pennsylvania and Laxalt doesn't win Nevada, the Republican Party's in big trouble, and it looks like the Democrats might take the Senate.
Yeah, I'd say that all roads lead through Nevada, which was the prediction, by the consultant class anyway. But tonight, all roads lead through Nevada. Look, Georgia's going to have a runoff, and Walker will win it in the runoff. Everybody's got to get ready to volunteer there. I'm very happy that we at InfoWars called the Georgia race and called the North Carolina race 2 hours ago. We said runoff in one of them, outright in the other. Even when the New York Times was still saying that there were 250,000 outstanding votes for the Democrat there in North Carolina, and she would have been the first black senator from North Carolina, and she's a female. So, there's history in play there. What I find completely interesting is I cannot reconcile the exit polling that Politico has with these results. If the electorate got 4 to 5 points wider and then remained the same as a normal midterm black, but got more Hispanic, and Hispanics are dividing for us, and whites are dividing for us, then, folks, we've got to come back and do an autopsy report on why the RNC failed. Why did the RNC fail? Why did Kevin McCarthy fail? And let me go ahead and leak what I'm going to say in about half hour. This is to blame Trump tomorrow. This is going to be Mitch McConnell trying to rub Trump's face in and say, my candidates won and your candidates are problematic. We can't have any more Trump in our party. And that's what I'm going to tell you is going to lead the front page of the papers tomorrow. Is they're going to carry water for the Republican establishment. And I ask viewers and listeners, the media hates the Republican Party. So why would they team up with Mitch McConnell, and why would they team up with Kevin McCarthy tomorrow? I know I'm speaking in future tense to attack Trump, but, this will be the clip heard around the world. We called it here, 12 hours before it happens.
So going off of this theory, which I can see playing out too, okay, let's blame Trump, and now let's look, forget about what happened last night. Let's look for the midterm, or let's look for the presidential election, right? Oh, now it's going to be, we can't have Trump, right? Now it's going to be, we can't have Trump run. He's got too much baggage, which there's a fair debate to be had there.
There is.
But let's let the voters decide. Let's let the people decide. And it's clear at this point, if the Republican Party has any wits about them whatsoever, they'll either get fully behind Donald Trump, or they'll say, hey, look, we'll have an extremely hotly contested primary between Trump and DeSantis, and that's going to feel bad, and that's going to be painful during that process. But in the end, it's going to be iron sharpening iron, and I think it'll be better for the Republicans. But if they do this whole shenanigan where they try to throw Trump under the bus again, tell him not to stage against him to try to embarrass him, that don't have a chance anyway, then it's going to be the worst thing ever for the Republican Party. They're never going to be able to unite and seize the reins of power ever again. But I think you're right. I think they're going to try to find a way to blame this on Trump, and it's going to be the McConnells and the McCarthys of the party. They're going to take their heads out of their ass for a 24-hour period. Where have they been, by the way? Where have McConnell and McCarthy been this entire midterm run? Nowhere. I haven't seen him campaigning. I haven't seen him pounding the pavement. I haven't seen him doing a damn thing. They've been hiding in a hole. I've been doing this joke bit where I've sent out sonar signals. Where's McCarthy? Where's McConnell? It's like they're not even to be found. Oh, but you're right. They'll be found tomorrow. They'll blame this all on Trump. But stepping back from that, the focus is going to be on the response, I think, from Lake and Masters. as to what's been going on in Arizona all day in Maricopa County. And then it's going to be of whenever we start getting these results in Nevada, what are they going to do in Clark County? That's Las Vegas. Yeah, there's our sonar. We're not hearing from McConnell or McCarthy tonight on what happened in Maricopa County, Philadelphia, or all these other places where there were problems. But the sonar, we're looking for McConnell and McCarthy. Will they pop their heads out of the sand tomorrow to blame Donald Trump for all of this? Be on the lookout for that, folks. So here's what we're watching, though. This all comes down to Nevada. If the Republicans can't pull off Nevada, it's not looking good. The runoff in Georgia is going to be everything. And the high hopes we had for the Senate going red is quickly going to be snuffed out, if you will. Still nothing out of Nevada, though, so we will just continue to monitor that. But just as we predicted here, Republicans doing well in the House, but the anomalies of the ballot stuffing in the Democrat-run cities, it looks like it's going to be enough to overrun them at the state level.
Yeah, folks, I mean, this is really interesting. I mean, Arizona, they want everyone to go to sleep before we get a result. That most certainly is going to happen. So if you're watching InfoWars, I suggest that you grab a coffee. Because, you know, we were talking with the crew here earlier and some of the programming changes that are going to happen in the future. And the question was whether or not half the crew would be able to leave or not, but they won't. So we're going to be with you a while. I don't know. You know, they'll pull the plug when they pull the plug. But Arizona will not be called tonight. And if Fetterman pulls off Pennsylvania, then, you know, like Owen said, there's so much pressure to the U.S. Senate seat, the path to the victory there through Nevada. And then, we're holding on to a prayer here in Arizona because if the Democrats steal it, it looks like they'll go for all four. They'll go for the governor. They'll go for the senator. They'll go for the attorney general. They'll go for the secretary of state. And nobody wants me to say this. And my brain is telling me not to say what I'm about to say. All my friends would caution me away from saying this, but in the interest of just telling you all the truth, I do not know how we get to the White House if the Democrats take the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the governorship, and a U.S. Senate seat in Arizona. I do not know what the path to victory is in 2024 if the Democrats are simply going to, in our face, steal it.
I can't really reason as I go through the past elections, 2016, 2020, and then looking at the results we have today. The Republicans didn't put up bad candidates in Arizona. In fact, I would argue that some of the best candidates that the Republicans put forward were in Arizona. Kerry Lake and Blake Masters, that's about as good as you could put forward.
They were fundraising juggernauts for people who had no name ID to 100% name ID. And then they had allies like Peter Thiel, you know, with Blake Masters. Yeah.
I don't, now look, there's plenty of time, folks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're talking about a serious swing at this point if this one's going to turn around for Lake and for Masters. It would be a miracle, really, I would say at this point. And that's not to say I'm going to call these races yet. And quite frankly, I wouldn't like to call them at all because I don't trust what happened in Maricopa County, and I don't think that Lake and Masters will either. So I guess it comes down to this now. The woman in charge of election oversight in Arizona is who?
Yeah, that would be the candidate for governor, Katie Hobbs.
Oh, well then, that's like that line from The Departed when he's like, so you're telling me that you've got your rat looking for the rat? He says, yeah, my guess is nobody finds anything at all. So it's like, oh, the woman who's running the election oversight is running in the election. My guess is there's no election oversight.
Yeah, it's crazy what's going on. And I want to stress again, it's not the numbers that are necessarily alarming us here. It is the pattern of behavior, okay, that we saw while we were conducting these elections. The fact that only Republican areas had problems, the fact that they didn't want to tabulate the votes, the fact that they're ignoring court decisions or court decisions were going against us, that Democrats normally support keeping polls open longer, the fact that we're at a standstill right now as America starts to turn in, and the fact that we know, like, for example, Pinal County. So it's not the numbers that are scaring me. What's scaring me is the pattern, what looks like, of criminal behavior, right? Negligence at the best, but premeditated criminal electioneering. And I gotta tell you, I'm not thrilled with the American electorate either. It means that money can win anything. It means incumbency can win anything. The fact that Gretchen Whitmer and Hochul could win, the fact that Joe Biden's disapproval rating isn't dragging down safe blue seats into the mud with him, where historically that has been the case for others, means that the technocracy has accomplished a goal that they've wanted for over 100 years, in much the same way that Obama was trying to accomplish socialized medicine and went for it all, right, and got halfway to it. That was a 50-year march for Democrats. Well, this, folks, this type of technocratic, detailed control over the electorate, which they still need to, botch the tabulation machines, is a 100-year plan by the technocracy. And there's a lot of intellectual people who are going to say we're post-political, and it's going to be difficult to contend with that intellectually.
By the way, quick update in Pennsylvania. They have declared Shapiro the winner. Good luck with that, Pennsylvania. And then Fetterman still in control, though Oz has slowly narrowed the gap throughout the day. I'm not so sure this goes Oz's way when it's all said and done. It seems like there might be too much ground to be made up at this point. Ollie, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, this race was always going to be tight. I think that the RCP average had Oz up by 0.4 or 0.5 or whatever. So, this was, always going to be interesting. But what again is very interesting to me in some of these states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, even Ohio, but is like, what was the black vote going to do? Black voters were telling every pollster of both parties and independent pollsters that they didn't want to go to the polls. If the exit polling is correct and they came out and they're going to comprise 9% of the electorate or 8% of the electorate, that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard. I can't. It would be very, very hard to contend with. This result is much like 2020. We were talking with Laura Loomer during our break when Alex had on Ms. Kubrick, and Laura's like, aren't you getting deja vu? Isn't this like what we saw in Florida and Orange County in 2018? But how the results are coming in seem like 2020. This surgical precision, through some of these communities, it makes no sense. The New York Times said that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election because of white men. Who believes that? Who believes that? So, again, if this is a real result, right? Let's say that we're living in La La Land. What the New York Times and Time Magazine have to come out tomorrow and say is that white people don't actually like Trump. And then it's like, okay, well then, what's all the hysteria around white voters, right? Then white voters are safe from the Democrats. This is not a result that is, that gives you confidence in the sciences. It just doesn't. Inflation is what it is. The resident-in-chief, the guy occupying the Oval Office, has the approval rating and the disapproval rating he does. So this means that all those numbers and all of that math, relatively speaking, is out the window. So what's in? Money, incumbency, and the media. And those are now the fundamentals of American politics. Money, incumbency, and CNN. And they will control the body of politics. Or, it's the only way to explain this result. In a lot of ways, it's the only way to explain how Barack Obama won his re-election. Contrary to what was called the misery index. He retired what was called the misery index in politics, so no one references that anymore because, everybody said, okay, well, I guess the math doesn't mean anything anymore. Tonight we'll retire a lot of the common knowledge and axioms in political science if you believe these elections are legitimate.
Well, and guys, let's pull up the Michigan race here quickly, and I'll go back to the big board, because I just want to re-emphasize something. explaining here, guys. Give me the big board. Look, I mean, it's hard to believe this, but we'll take it at face value. And I guess when you see what it's like to live in Detroit or Philadelphia, maybe it really is 95% Democrats. I mean, you know, those are two of the biggest shitholes in the country, so maybe it really is 95% Democrats. But okay, we're back in Michigan. Here is your governor's race. Now, we just got the latest update, and Whitmer's lead is shrinking here. Whitmer's lead is shrinking. That is interesting, with not even half the votes in. So we'll continue to maintain our watchful eye here. But guys, just pull up the Detroit district here for me, because you're going to see some of the most ridiculous numbers. 93% for Whitmer. Dixon only gets 6% of the vote. I mean, seriously, Wayne County? Like, really? Is it that bad? Is it really that bad? Do Democrats really have that much mind control over the voters? Do people in Detroit really hate themselves that much? Do you believe this? But okay, now let's look at the House race. And let's zoom out on the map. So this is how we explained it, folks. Now look at Michigan now. Oh, Michigan is a red state, right? Clearly, Michigan is a red state. And if you look at the numbers, guys, go back up to the top. Let's look at the seats that are up in Michigan. Here's how this is probably going to go. I think you're going to have 8 seats for Republicans, and you're going to have probably 5 seats for Democrats when this is all said and done. So Republicans are going to take the House in Michigan, but then you're going to say, well, how is that possible? How can Republicans take the House in Michigan but then get walloped in a governor's race? Well, let's go back to the governor's race, and let's look at Detroit. Just what we said. They stuffed the ballots in one city, and that's enough to overwhelm the entire state. And so that's what you're seeing personified to perfection in Michigan tonight. But we won't call it yet. The gap has shrunk. Tudor-Dixon perhaps not out of it yet. Now let's fly across to Pennsylvania real quick, guys. Let's just get an update on what's going on if we could here. So yeah, Shapiro declared the winner, massive victory over Mastriano. Let's look at that Senate race though for me, guys. Fetterman is still ahead. The gap is shrinking though. Oz is now within striking distance, I would say. But let's again pull up Philadelphia County just to give it a good laugh at how ridiculous these numbers are. 80% for Fetterman. I guess the people in Philadelphia really hate themselves and they really hate their city. And so they're going to go totally in the tank for Fetterman. So there you go. What you see in Michigan is a perfect example of how Democrats win big elections. And you say, how can this be? They're not popular. All they need to do is steal one big city, and they can take over that entire state. And then if they can select 5 cities in a national election, well, you saw what happened in 20.